Do you ever feel like you just don't understand what God is doing in your life or in this world? Do you ever look at everything that's happening to you and struggle to grasp how in the world God could possibly be taking this and working it for good? You think it just isn't fair, or it seems like God for no reason is just making your life painful? It's really hard to see the ways of God when we're in the midst of pain, because our suffering has a way of blurring our vision. It's also hard to see because we're not God. His ways are so far beyond our ability to comprehend them. We need to learn to trust His wisdom and His heart. Job needed to learn that too. While Job and his friends were arguing back and forth for 29 chapters, there was a young man named Elihu who was there listening the whole time. Now, out of respect, since Job and his friends were Elihu's elders, he kept quiet. But now he can't hold it out inside any longer. He has to speak what's on his heart. And he rebukes Job for two main things. First, he rebukes him for claiming that he is pure and innocent, that he's without sin and doesn't deserve any kind of judgment. And second, he rebukes Job for accusing God of judging him unjustly, of inventing a case against Job so that he can make him his enemy. He says, listen, Job, God is greater than man. He doesn't have to give any account of how he runs the world. And Elihu's absolutely right about that. God doesn't owe us any explanation for why He does certain things or for why He allows certain things. But we need to understand that God doesn't just sit on His throne and hand out pain for no reason. Elihu says that God will often bring pain to get our attention, sometimes even disciplining us to the edge of death in order to get our attention. But He does it, he says, because He wants to turn us from our sinful ways, because He wants to save us from our pride, because He wants to save us from judgment. Now, not every painful thing that happens is a direct discipline of God. We know that. But whether it's direct discipline or whether it's just the effects of living in a fallen world, He says in verse 30, we can trust in the midst of all of the pain that we are under the care of a God who wants to give us life. So Job, Elihu says in chapter 34, you are multiplying words without knowledge. You're accusing God based on your limited understanding of His ways, based on your narrow assessment of the current circumstances of your small life, but you have no idea what you're talking about. That's exactly what the Lord tells Job at the beginning of chapter 38, and it's what Job himself confesses to be true at the beginning of chapter 42. And how often Elihu would tell us the same thing today if he could listen to the words in some of our prayers, because we are too often experts at multiplying words without knowledge. We don't have the capacity to figure out what God is up to in the events of our lives unless He reveals it to us. But Elihu says we can always be certain about a couple of things. Number one, God sees the ways of humanity. It's so easy to look around and, like Job, say, Lord, how can he get away with that? Lord, how can I be suffering like this? Don't you see what's happening? Don't you see that he's sinful? Don't you see that I am a man of integrity? But God isn't missing anything, and He's not making wrong judgments based on a lack of information. He sees it all. Number two, Elihu says, God is just. He will always do what's right. If I'm being disciplined, it's because I need to be disciplined. He says God will never distort justice. And He is not subject to our judgments about His judgments, because He is the source of all justice. And that source of all justice, the only truly pure and righteous and innocent one who has ever lived, literally took justice into His own hands when He allowed them to put nails into those hands and to hang Him on a cross. He took every one of my sins and every one of your sins onto Himself, and justice was done right there because He wants you to have life. I don't understand much of what's going on in this world. I don't even understand much of what's going on in my own life, but I can trust a God who has a heart like that, and so can you.